Hey there, class. I hope everybody's having a great holiday week, or that you're going to have a great holiday week. I wanted to go ahead and record class for this week since I know that many of you may be traveling or otherwise occupied this week. The goal with our microbits this week is to learn how to send a signal using radio from one microbit to another. Let me demonstrate for you how this works. So I've got here two microbits. I've got this red microbit and I've got this green microbit over here. When I turn on the red microbit, the first thing it does is just shows me I've turned this on to a radio channel, and the number it showed me was the radio channel that I'm on. You can use up to 256 different radio channels for microbits. This microbit right here, this red microbit, is going to be my transmitter. It's going to send out a signal. So the way that it works is when I press the A button, it's going to either send out a word for light, or it's going to, if I press the B button, it'll send out a word for sound. I'll go ahead and do that now, but before I do that, I want to show you here, this microbit over here is my receiver. I've got a heart just kind of going right to let you know that it's up and running. What it's doing is it's waiting for a signal. When it receives the signal from this transmitter, it will look at the signal that it received, and if it receives the word sound, it'll play a sound. If it receives the word light, it will go ahead and turn on the lights that are wired up to this microbit, similar to what we've done in the past. So let me go ahead and show you that now. If I press A, oops, I just reset this. There it is. You can see it says light over here, and now you can see it's actually lighting up the microbit here. So I've got that looping through and it lit the microbit up. I'll do that one more time. So I press on the transmitter, and the transmitter is now showing the little light. Over here it says the word light, and after it says the word light, it lights up the lights 5 times. It blinks them 5 times. Likewise, if I were to come over on my transmitter and click the B button, it now has a little note for the sound, and it says the word sound over here, and then it plays a sound. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and show you how to make this work and code it on your own. So that being said, let's go ahead and get back to coding. So now what I've got here is I've navigated to the make code page that we've been using to code our microbits. I'm going to go ahead and code a new project. And in the new project, I'm going to start with the transmitter. So I'll call this a radio transmitter. And then I'll just say light and sound, just so that I know which transmitter I'm doing. I've got several transmitter projects. Now that I'm in here, the first thing that we do every time we code is we break it down. I'm going to go ahead and say add a comment, and I'm going to put my purpose here, and I'm going to say the purpose is to show how to send a radio signal from one microbit to another. Okay, so on start, let's say the first thing I'm going to do is I need to set the radio station, right? Or in this case, that's actually called a group. So set the radio group. If you're going to transmit between two radios, transmitter and receiver, you have to make sure that you're set to the same channel. So I'm going to set the radio station. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to show an icon to know it turned on. So and actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to show the radio group that I chose. Okay, that's on start. And then I'll say on A, so when I press the A button, I'm going to show a light icon on my microbit. And then the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to send out a radio signal with the word light. And similarly on B, if I press the B, I'm going to show a sound icon. And then I'm going to send out a radio signal with the word sound. So that's it. That's my plan. We'll go ahead and carry that out now, right? So the first thing I said is on start, set the radio station or the radio group. If you'll notice down here, about halfway down your basic coding categories, there's a radio option. if I click on radio, the very first block is radio set group. This is like setting the radio station that we're going to be transmitting from. So in this case, I'm just going to choose my age, so I'll say 47. And then I said I did want to also show the group that I chose, so I'll go to basic and say show number, and I'll just show that same number, 47. So with that, I can see over here in my simulator, it's showing the 47. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to input, and I'm going to grab on button A pressed. Well, the first thing I want to do is I'm going to show an icon. I'm going to choose an icon that kind of looks like light emanating from it, even though they're all light. This one works. I like that one. So we'll use that, and then we're going to send out a radio signal with the word light. So if you go to radio and you say, instead of setting the group, you'll notice there's a couple of blocks that say send. I'm going to say send. I could either send a number, I could send a string, which is a string of characters. It could be letters and numbers, but that's what a string is. It's like a word in programming parlance. And then there's another type of data I could send out that's called a key value pair. That's kind of like sending out a variable and giving it a value, right? Right now what I want is just this string. So I'm going to grab radio send string, and since this is A, I said A would be light. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send out light. And I'm going to duplicate this whole thing by right-clicking and duplicating. And then I'm going to say on button B, I'm just going to show a different signal. And it looks like we actually have a note symbol, which is awesome. And instead of sending out the word light, I'm going to send the word sound. Great. That's it for my code. I can't really test this radio types of things on the simulator. I can click the A button and see that I've got this sent out, but it brings up another simulated microbit to let me know that now I'm dealing with radio and there should be 2 microbits involved. Unfortunately, this microbit isn't programmed for anything other than what's right here, so I can't really test the radio in my simulator. Likewise, if I click the B button, the note symbol shows up. You can see up top, it's kind of showing that it has sent out a radio signal, because that's where the radio wire actually is on the microbit. But again, I can't do anything on this other radio. It's just there to show me that I need to connect with another microbit at this point. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go ahead and connect my microbit and transfer the data. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'll just say download. It'll take a minute to download that program. It's downloading the program. And now that I've downloaded the program, if I were to show you on my screen here, if I restart, it shows my number. And if I click on A, it's going to go ahead and show the light, right? So I know that that's kind of working. Let's go to the other microbit and program the other microbit to see how we can handle a signal when it comes across. So going back to my code, I'm going to click on microbit and click on a new project. This time I'll say radio. In this case, it's a radio receiver, and I'll say light and sound as well, so that I know that this is the receiver for the transmitter that I just created. Over here in the receiver, I'm going to start by adding a comment like I always do. And I'm going to say the purpose of this program is to demonstrate how to handle radio data when it's received. And then I'm going to say on start. So when it starts up, I'm just going to show a heart. Actually, the first thing I need to do is make sure I'm on the same radio station. So set the radio group. And then the second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to forever show a heart beating. And that'll just let me know that my microbit is still up and running and it's just waiting for that signal, right? Then I'll say, in this case, when I receive a radio signal. Okay, so now I'm going to wait for an event that says, hey, if you've heard something from the radio, let's do something with it. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to make sure that it is a string. So check if it's a string. And then the next thing I'm going to say is, if the string is light, then let's actually start with sound this time. If it's sound, then play a sound. else, let's say else, if it's light, then turn on and off the lights for, let's say 5 times. And actually, let's also show, check if it's a string. If so, show the string that was received. Okay, so the idea here, I'm going to receive a radio signal. It's going to show me the word that I received over radio. And then it's going to go ahead and if it's a sound, play a sound. If it's light, it will go ahead and we'll turn on and off the light. So let's go ahead and try to do that. So first thing we say on start, set the radio group. So go back to the radio category and grab that first block that says set radio group. And I'm going to change that to 47 to make sure I'm on the same station as I was last time. Now I did put a forever in here this time. I said forever show a heart beating. So if I go to basic and I grab show icon, there's a big heart. If I right click and duplicate, I can grab a little heart. Right, where's my little heart? Right there. Okay, so now it's just going to cycle through that big little heart. And you can see that on the simulator. Next thing is when I receive a radio signal, check if it's a string. So if you go back to radio, so far we've used the grouping block. We've used a send block for sending a string, but now we're on the receiver. You'll notice there are different events or different blocks for whether or not the data that was received was a number, a name value pair, or a string. In this case, we're looking for a string. So let's say on radio received, receive string. This is what I want to do now. I want to say, hey, is it a string? Well, I've sort of made sure that it was a string by using only this block. Now I want to show what that string was. So if I go back to basic and I grab show string, I can now show a string. Well, what is the string that I want? I want whatever string came across, right? Well, I don't have that already programmed into here. That came through the airwaves. So over here, you'll notice it says on radio received and it says receive string. If you hover over that, you'll notice it sort of lights up. Well, if I click on that and drag it, that is a way of getting the variable string that was sent across. So I'm going to take that receive string and put it right in show string. And now what it's going to do is when I receive a radio signal, it will go ahead and show whatever the string was from that radio signal. The next thing I want to do is I want to check if the string is a sound. So with an if, I'm going to go to logic, and I'm going to grab an if else block. I'm going to say if, I need to check, is it a sound, right? So go back to your logic again, and we're going to use a comparison operator. Notice there's two equals comparison operators. Up to this point in class, we've been using numbers for everything. I chose to use actual words this time, or a string. I can't use this equals comparison operator that's up top because it's for numbers only. But if you go down 2 blocks, you'll notice it's got quotes in this equals comparison operator. That's the one I want. I'm going to click and drag this and put that into my if true statement. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if something equals something. Well, what is the something I want to compare? I want to compare whether or not the string that I received equals the word sound. Well, I can go up to that string again and grab it right out of the top and put it right in there. If received string equals, and I'll say sound. If that's the case, I want to go ahead and play a sound. So I'll go to music. I'm going to grab one of the pre-programmed sounds. I'll go to play melody. In this case, it's da-da-da-dum. I think I'll use that one just for fun. And that's all that I said. So that's all that I need to do there. If it's not sound, I do want to check if it's light. So instead of just saying else, go ahead and turn on the light, what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to say add a plus on this else. And that brings up another conditional statement that I can put in there, right? I'm going to right click on the condition up above and duplicate it. And then I'm going to put that condition right into the same spot. Now I'm checking if the received string equals the word light. If it does equal light, then what I want to do is turn on and off the lights. You'll notice right now in my simulator that the simulator has actually connected an aux cable that you might use for a pair of wired headphones to the 0 port and to the ground port. The reason it does that is because when they first made the microbits, they didn't have sound built in. And so if you wanted sound, you had to connect something using an auxiliary cable. That means that every time it plays a sound on the microbit, it actually sends a little bit of energy to 0. So I don't want to code my pin to 0. I'm going to code it to 1. So I'll hook my wires up to 1. So if you go to pins, I'm going to click on pins, and I'm going to digital write pin. Only instead of pin 0, like I said, I'm going to choose pin 1. I'm going to turn that on, so that'll be a 1. And then I'm going to go ahead and wait for a little bit. So I'll go to basic and grab a pause. And in my pause, I'll wait a half a second. And then I'm just going to repeat that for turning it off, right? So I'll say, well, that was turning it on. So I'm going to right click and duplicate and write to pin 1, write a 0 there now. Make sure that's a 0. There you go. I'm going to right click and duplicate the pause. And this is good, but that'll only happen once, so I really need a loop. Let's go to loops and grab a repeat loop. I'm going to put this whole thing inside of the repeat loop. I'll repeat it 5 times. And then I'll put that in there. So if it's sound, it's going to play a sound. If the signal I receive is light, it will turn on the lights on and off 5 times. And actually, I don't have an else in this case, so I'm just going to hit the minus button. And now I've got an if and an if else, but no extra else, just how to handle it if anything like that happens. So with that being said, we are ready to go ahead and upload this code to my microbit. We're going to go ahead and put this in here, and I am going to connect it. And now you can see here I've got this microbit. I'm going to go ahead and connect my microbit, download the code. Oh, my connection failed. Of course it did. I'm going to cancel that, and I'll just hit done. I'm going to disconnect my device, and I'm going to go up to the top and really disconnect it. And then I'm going to reload my page. And once it reloads, I'm going to reconnect this whole thing. So let's pair the device again. Sometimes that happens on a Macintosh, kind of obnoxious. It appears my microbit appears to have stalled. Oh no. Okay, so I'm going to hit done. Well, let's try one more time. See if this is popping up. Okay, see my microbit. It does appear to have loaded onto my computer, which is a good thing. I'm going to go ahead and forget the microbit again, and then I'm going to reload the page. I'm going to connect my device, hit next, pair my device one final time before I give up. It failed again. Okay, so I'll have to try something else. I can try downloading it straight to my microbit and hope that it doesn't give me an error. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to download the code straight to my microbit without pairing and hit done. And it does look like it downloaded. So you can see here, I need to change that from port 0 to port 1. And now I've got my 2 microbits. My red is my transmitter. And if I were to turn it on, I can see there's a 47. And once I press the A button, it should play some sound. I pressed A, and actually it looks like I've got that backwards. Over here it says light, and that's not turning on my light. Oh no. I wonder if that is my last code. Try it again. Now you see I press the A button, and over here it says light. And now it's playing lights. This is my code that is connected to port 0. So that means when I play my sound, it'll probably light up the lights too while it's playing the sound. If I click on B, you get a little transmitter, shows a note. Over on my receiver, it says the word sound. And now I got my error, my 502 error. So now it's really sad. It's supposed to work the way I showed you at the beginning. Hopefully that works for you. I'll troubleshoot my own stuff later. Hopefully this was useful to you as you go ahead and you work on your projects, your digital storyboard project. You can see opportunities for how you might code your microbits to be able to talk to each other. You could use one as a remote control, and then the other one might be controlled to the board, playing lights and playing sound. You could use both of them on the board and have it when one does something on one part of the board, it sends a signal to the other microbit and it does something on the other part of the board, right? It's open to you to decide how you decide to use this, but we wanted to be able to help you learn how to make the microbits talk with each other wirelessly, which opens up just a world of possibilities. Thank you, have fun, and I hope you have a great Thanksgiving.